Hey, thanks for joining me. Nintendo just showed a new Star Fox game. This is pretty exciting. I want to take a look at the Nintendo Direct that they showed us, but first, before we get started, if I could just ask you a favor, this is a personal favor, please check your G diffusers. I know a lot of people don't know this, but 4 out of 10 families around the world suffer from some malfunction of the G diffuser, and it's something that I think we should be raising awareness of. So we will take a look at the trailer and the aesthetic. I'll share my thoughts on that. But if we could just first all just check our G diffusers very quickly. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got going on here. I think this is pretty interesting. So it does not take very long for us to recognize this as a remake of the original Star Fox. This is exciting. We've seen that game remade as Star Fox 64, and Star Fox Zero is it's kind of a remake, kind of a prequel. What I find very striking and I find very, very interesting is the aesthetic for the characters, the anatomical style that they've gone for these characters. I think is very interesting because they're leaning away from the cutesy, cartoony, chibi Fox. It's leaning away from the Fox that we see, say, for example, in Smash Bros., which we are most familiar with because that's the most we've seen these characters. And it looks similar to long ago in the 1990s. There was a magazine ad for Star Fox, and there were handcrafted puppets. These were physical puppets that were made for this ad, and they had a very gritty, creepy look to them. And the visuals, the anatomical aesthetic that they've chosen for this game is quite similar to that. I'll put it on the screen for a comparison, but it looks actually quite similar to that, and I quite like that. It's creepy. There's a creepiness to this. It's straddling the uncanny valley, but what I like about this is that there's a grittiness to the aesthetic here. The world feels lived in and dirty and imperfect, and I really enjoy that. I like the little details that say keep limbs clear. I like the detailing on the R-wings here. There's something really creepy about Slippy here. He just has a very wet look. His eyes are extremely reflective, and they're conveying that sense of a frog. Frogs are like that. They're kind of gooey, you know, not gooey. I'm sure there's a technical word for that. There's so much sense of depth and texture to these characters. Falco has a little bit of protagonist syndrome going on with his asymmetrical, I've got a shoulder armor, but it's segmented, so it conveys a sense of it looks a little bit like feathering, you know, that we see here. It's so interesting to see these characters in a way that's less cartoony. It's still stylized, but it's less cartoony, and this feels like an earnest attempt at creating something that looks interesting without just trying to look vintage, without trying to match something vintage. And I really like the detailing work on the leather straps are imperfect here, but it seems that they sort of buckle in. It doesn't go underneath their arms. It buckles in to their vests there. Falco has his sleeves torn off because personally he prefers the air. He's got a leather jacket underneath. This is so neat. The voice work, nothing is ever going to have the personality of the N64 game. You know, I do enjoy the low frame rate. I really enjoy how dark the lighting is here, where it really feels like they've just opened up a crappy webcam. It's got limited frame rate. It feels like there's light coming off the screen there, so there's an imperfection to it. And that's what I really like so far about all of this, is the conveyed imperfections. It makes this feel like a lived-in world. And there's a grunginess and a grittiness to it that has been missing, especially when you look at Star Fox Zero. And it feels like this glossy, idealized, hyper-stylized, cartoony world. But something like this is interesting to look at. You can see Slippy's life bar down there, which I think is pretty neat. Many of us have played these games dozens and dozens of times, and many people have not. We have a look at Fox here, and this feels so unlike anything that we've ever seen for these characters, but it feels more organic. I can understand why it feels creepy to look at this. What's the movie with George Clooney, The Fantastic Mr. Fox or something like that? But these designs feel like the artist had considered what would it take for an animal. They took the animal and they made the animal humanoid, as opposed to the previous renditions of these characters, it feels like they've worked backwards. With the previous versions, it feels like they started with a human and then just attached an animal head onto the body. This feels more animalistic, it feels more organic, and it makes each character feel unique in their own way, so pretty interesting. I'm gonna see if there's anything interesting to look at in terms of the animation here. Quite smooth mocap and facial expressions. There is a feature where with game chat you can you have a Star Fox character as your avatar and it will track your face, which is quite impressive, really neat. I hope to see more of that. Falco Lombardi. I'm just taking a look. We can see semi-transparent textures here, but his fingers don't seem to have semi-transparency. It's just, they're kind of complex, and so they're just solid meshes there. Pretty interesting. He's got his protagonist shoulder armor.
Fox's rival.
If you, just a shortcut, if you want to make your characters look more interesting, just give them something asymmetrical. Add some asymmetry to their design. For example, you got the red patch here, a little, I hope that's not a vape. I'm gonna throw up in my mouth if this is a vape. That better just be a flashlight or something. Okay.
One planet at a time.
Let's see. And I'm looking at, I don't want to sound weird about this. I'm looking at Fox's feet. And that is not like a furry thing, all right? That's not what it's about. I'm looking at Fox's feet. We have never seen these anthropomorphic style legs before. These, you see, it has the style, it kind of looks like it actually looks like a fox leg as opposed to human legs. This is what I say when I mean it feels like they've started with an animal and worked their way forward as opposed to starting with a human and working backward. I find that very interesting. We also see that with Falco's feet later on, and again, this is not like a furry thing. I'm not looking at their feet for that reason. I'm looking at it as an artist and a designer. And I find this interesting. We don't get to see Slippy's feet, and God, I know that sounds gross. Who directed this scene? J.J. Abrams? Because there is a ton of lens flare here. We got lens flare. Always like these sort of holographic things. Those are always fun, but I quite enjoy the framing of these scenes here. They frame them in a way where the space just feels like there's depth and it's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the cinematics because we don't really get to see these characters interact with each other all that much, and I think that is what this version is going to do differently, is we are going to see these characters inside the ship, and that's what the trailer explains. We get to see them interacting with each other so they feel more like a team, which is neat. Peppy has, he's got stripes on his bandana here, which is pretty neat. Let's see here.
Mastermind and veteran pilot.
Into enemy space. Just this.
This
Hit 'em quick and hit 'em
this is
hard.
going to be interesting. Oh, there's like a vaguely human look to Peppy's eyes that are kind of creepy, which I like. I think this reminds me of something that would have been made in the late 80s or early 90s in terms of the anatomical expression. And I suppose in a way you could refer to this aesthetic as neoclassical, in much the way that Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is neoclassical. I wonder if there's going to be any customizing with these R-Wings. This looks to be like a pretty standard tutorial level. We can just skip past the boring stuff. We all know Corneria. That mech doing a jump looks pretty unnatural to me. It looks pretty wonky. Let's go ahead and have a look at that again. Just this funny little hop. Looks kind of funny. All of this is going to look very familiar if you've played Star Fox before. Very interesting to see Cat mentioned. I wonder if they will bring any lore established from Star Fox 2 into the fold, since Nintendo has actually officially released Star Fox 2, you know, 20 years after it was canceled. So it's great to actually have Star Fox 2. I wonder if they will be bringing in lore to help canonize that to some degree. This looks fantastic. I really, really enjoy this sense of atmospheric depth, even though this is an asteroid field and there would not be haze, there wouldn't be atmospheric density like this. Realism is not the point. Realism is not entertaining. It's not fun. What is interesting, why we like games, is that they are interesting. And this looks interesting. The conveyance of the sense of haziness here, it looks so freaking cool. Every environment seems like they've set out to have its own visual identity with color palettes. I really enjoy this kind of haziness and this nebula in the background. Very neat. I'm
And the
really
inside of
looking
the nebula.
forward to
From
just
planet
playing the game. You know, I've played this,
surfaces to outer space, a variety
you
of
know,
stages
hundreds of
await.
times over the years. Star Fox, you know, Star Fox 64. But they're giving us more. And I think this is the right way to do a remake. They are following in the spirit of the original game, and they are presenting it with new visuals. They are telling the same story, but they are organically expanding on the story by further exploring the themes that were already present. What I don't see here is the developers just shoving in more things. What I don't see is, oh, well, you know, this was popular. A Marvel movie did time travel and alternate multiverses, so we'll shove that in there. And if they introduce any kind of time travel or multiverse thing in here, I'm not going to play it. I'm sick of that. I'm sick of just shoving that into remakes. And if this looks like it's just an organic retelling of the story with enhanced visuals and further exploring the themes of the characters' relationships, this is gross. This is so creepy. And it's perfect. This is exactly what I want to see. Also, I feel like Nintendo has confirmed that no, they have not cut off the characters' legs and replaced them. These are the characters' actual legs. You know, there's that, you know, there's the, I think it was like a game theory where the Star Fox characters' legs were amputated so they could replace with robot legs so that they would be able to experience higher G-force without blacking out. This is confirmed that they did not amputate their legs and replace them with robot legs. This looks so cool. That's all I've got to say. You know, I will link to this trailer, and I strongly recommend taking a look at it. But there's cool features in here. You know, a multiplayer versus mode that's a bit like capture the flag, base defending. Being able to use the mouse, it looks like you can hand the other controller to someone else and they can control the R-Wing and you can be the gunner. This just looks so great. This is an interesting organic exploration of a title, expanding on it, something that we're familiar with, and we are exploring it further. This is cool. Wolf O'Donnell looks awesome. Pigma's gross. You know, I forgot that guy's name. He's a chameleon. It's an Andros looking guy. I think that's his nephew. You know, this is a really neat feature here. I'm pretty impressed. I trust Yoshiaki Koizumi-san that this is an honest portrayal of this feature. We even see a little bit of imperfection with the freaking out eyebrows, which is why I trust it. You know, this is interesting to me, and I'd be interested in taking a closer look at how they've implemented this kind of fur, whether this is shader based and they are just using tessellation to create a sense of fur, which is we can do these days. It saves us, instead of having to model the fur, we can use shaders, tessellate it, and extrude out from that. It does have really interesting shading detail in there as well. I'm going to just put my guess out there that this is a shader-based tessellation. I'm interested in seeing more. This looks so cool, cheeks puffing out and everything, so they use the blend shapes to animate for that. Really fantastic, great implementation of technology, and we get to use the N64 controller. So this looks so cool, very interesting, and if you haven't played Star Fox before, I think this is going to be an excellent way to enjoy the story. I am also one of the Star Fox fans that kind of says, hey, maybe we could get a sequel that's actually good. Maybe we can move the story forward. But also, this is so cool that I hope this serves as a jumping point for exploring the series further with more sequels. James McCloud, and I really like this hunched over look. It helps him look more animalistic, more fox-like, as opposed to just having a human body and with it slapping an animal head on him. This is so neat that the aviators are actually part of his scouter, or whatever the thing is called. I don't know what it's called. This looks fantastic. I'm excited. It's creepy, it's gritty, it's dark and grungy, and that is perfect for a story like this. Having something that is cutesy, colorful, and cartoony does not serve this kind of world and this story further, because this is a story about war. They're at war with Andros, you know, and I don't know if they've sort of painted themselves into a corner where they feel like all their stories have to sort of be Andros, but I would like it if they carried the story further and did more after this. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at this trailer with me. I will link to it, and I strongly recommend you go watch it for this Pigma's gross, wet Pigma. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Be well. All right, I'll see you around.